Okay, so I think we're good to get started. So you're very welcome to our webinar on domestic and commercial energy retrofits. Your hosts are ourselves, Southeast Energy Agency, and this is in conjunction with World Green Building Week, EcoBoost, Interreg Northwest Europe programme, and EU peers. So just move on to the next slide, please, Alex. And this is just some housekeeping before we begin, guys. So please keep your microphone off unless you're speaking. If you do have questions, please use the chat function. We will be having a Q&A session at the very end. So you raise your hand or use the chat function at that point as well. If your connection is poor, the best practice is please turn off any other apps. This may interact with or interfere with your viewing of this webinar. And just so you all know, this webinar will be recorded. And the next slide, please. Perfect. So the agenda for today, first we'll have Alex Hamilton speaking on Ireland's one-stop shop community of practice. This is within EU Peers project. Then we will have Eugena speaking on the energy efficiency retrofit for MSEs, which are micro and small enterprises as part of the ECOBoost project. And we'll also have Michael Kinchella speaking on the one-stop shop for domestic and non-domestic energy upgrades. And myself, Stacey Phelan, I'll be moderating the Q&A at the very end. And yeah, so who are we? We're a not-for-profit supplier independent organisation. We're a trusted intermediary. We work across many sectors, including public sector, communities, residential, agriculture, transport and commercial. Our main goal is to support everyone across the Southeast to deliver the energy and climate transition. And just an overview of some of our services. So today we'll be doing a deeper dive on the EU and RDI project collaborations, along with the grant project coordination and supports. And for further information on any of the services laid out there, please check out our website. And we'll have Alex speaking now on Ireland's OSS Community of Practice.
Thanks very much, Stacey, and welcome to everybody to this afternoon's webinar. So hope everyone can hear me and everyone can see the slides. So yeah, my name's Alex Hamilton. I'm the Senior Engineer with the Southeast Energy Agency, which Stacey's just introduced us to. And we work on a number of RD&I projects and delivery projects. So we're going to hear a bit about them this afternoon. My particular talk is on Ireland's one-stop shop community of practice, part of the European Practitioners for Integrated Home Renovation Services. We're going to talk a little bit about both of those terms and what they mean on a European context and what they mean here in Ireland. So just to give you a brief outline of the EU Peers project. And I won't go into too much detail, but EU Peers is a 3-year project that's funded by the European Union. It started in September 24 and it's going to go on until August 2026, and then there will hopefully be an afterlife. As I said, it's funded by the EU European Union LIFE programme. There are 11 partners from 8 different EU countries. They're on the map, and I won't go into too much detail there about them. And the EU Peers, the aim is to strengthen and spread the integrated home renovation service concept as a key instrument across Europe to increase the residential renovation rate. And I'll obviously be talking a lot more about that this afternoon. The centerpiece of the project is the community of practice. Okay, so the mission of the project is improve, as I said, the delivery of integrated home renovation services by creating this community of practice, which will hopefully be a thriving environment for knowledge in exchange. So it's a space aimed at connecting us all as practitioners, so anyone who is on the IHRS or Integrated Home Renovation Service supply chain. It's all about collaboration and identifying common challenges, barriers, but also solutions, so problem solving in order to increase the number of home renovations in Ireland and across Europe. The Irish community of practice is one of 7 across Europe. So the 8 partners there that I showed you on the map, there's going to be a community of practice in each of those regions. Plus, there's going to be one trans-European community of practice for all countries to participate in. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the context across Europe. I won't go into too much detail, I would imagine, or hope that most people on the call today are aware that we are working towards climate neutrality by 2050, as outlined in the European Green Deal and the long-term renovation strategy, as well as many other policies and strategies across Europe. What it means is we are aiming to, or we have to, renovate 75% of the existing building stock. So that's total buildings. I know I'm here to talk about the domestic buildings, and later Eugena is going to outline the projects in terms of some of the non-domestic sector. And then Michael, my colleague Michael, is going to give you the reality of what this means and how we are here to help and the actual delivery projects in both domestic and non-domestic. So that we're here to help you and your clients to ensure that energy efficiency is considered during any works that are going on. So we're talking mostly about energy renovations, but of course, as we know, when people are renovating their homes, it's not always, very rarely, only energy works that are going on. 85% of the existing building stock across Europe was built prior to 2000. Okay, so since since 2000, of course, our building regulations have vastly improved. However, as we know, we're all working in the sector. There was a period where the building of houses could perhaps have been better. Let's put it that way. So, although we're targeting pre-2000 buildings in terms of the existing stock, in reality, many post-2000 buildings and homes also need to be renovated. What that means in numbers, there's 35 million buildings by 2030 across Europe that needs to be renovated up to high energy efficiency standard. That's a tripling of the existing renovation rate. So currently we're at about 1% per year of the building stock across Europe. That is, as I said, domestic and non-domestic are being renovated. And in order to meet that 2030 target, we're looking at tripling that up to 3% of the buildings per year needs to be renovated. The cost of that is going to be an additional 90 billion euro is needed every year until 2030. So there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of money to be spent and needed to deliver on this. In terms of just the domestic sector, and what this means, and also looking at energy poverty. Just the figures that I'm talking about today are mostly 2022 data. So again, across Europe, there's 235 million dwellings, and in Ireland, there's over 2.1 million domestic dwellings in Ireland. Again, the target is 16% of the least energy efficient homes are to be upgraded by 2030. Okay, so 16% of that 235 million should be upgraded. And that is going to increase then the targets by 2030, increases that 16 up to 22%. So we're looking at over a fifth of the dwellings in Europe being renovated by 2030. The priority is to tackle energy poverty, okay? And energy poverty, there's a few definitions of energy poverty, but basically it's the inability of households to adequately power and heat their homes at an affordable cost. Okay, it stems from a combination of low household income, high energy prices, and energy efficient homes. Here in Ireland and across Europe, energy poverty is also defined as if a house is spending more than 10% of its annual income on energy, then it is considered to be fuel poor or be in energy poverty. We're obviously not going to talk today about what we can do about low income or high energy costs, but we're here to specifically look at the inefficient homes and what we can do to help that part of the Venn diagram that you see there. Again, in 2022, we saw that 40 million homes across Europe, so 40 million homes were unable to heat, 40 million Europeans, which is 10% of the European population, was unable to heat their homes. Okay, so in the energy poverty bracket, about 10% of Europeans fall into that. In Ireland, it's just slightly less at 8.5%. Okay, so 8.5, that's over 180,000 homes in Ireland were categorised as fuel poor in 2022. There are regional disparities, and we see again across Ireland, there tends to be higher levels of fuel poverty in rural areas compared to urban areas. So what's stopping people renovating their homes? And as we know, and I'm sure there's a number of reasons, as I mentioned, there, low income, high energy costs, etc. But also what we're looking at is that it seems to be a very complicated, long and stressful journey. Most homeowners are what we call non-technical. Okay, so energy upgrades can be very confusing. I've got a little image here of how we've been treating houses and how we've been managing our homes and buildings in general. But in the 19th century, we had a wee chimney with a fire in it, and that's what heated our homes. Over the last 50, 60 years, we've become very technical, and every possible piece of equipment that we could put into our houses and our buildings is what we seem to have been doing, and it's been quite complicated. So when you talk to homeowners in general, they can be quite confused. They're not entirely sure what it is that they need to do. The aim here is to make it easier, but also to simplify what we need in our homes. Do we need all of this technology in order to power our homes? So to simplify it all back. There's lots of actors and stakeholders that we need to deal with. There's an image across the bottom with just a few of the actors that we have identified or highlighted. So starting with your owner, and if they have, let's say a low energy efficient home, anywhere below D, E, F, G would be considered low energy efficiency. To get up to that nice A-rated or BER B2 and above home, there's a lot of people and a lot of actors and a lot of stakeholders across along the way that they have to deal with. Okay, so there's very complicated. Costs are also very high. Okay, we ourselves in the Energy Agency, if we look at what we were what the costs were back in 2019. 2019, there was the National Deep Retrofit Housing Upgrades Programme run by SEEA. We delivered 14% of the national retrofit housing retrofits during that programme. And we found that the average cost was around €49,000 for the energy upgrades. And last year, if we look at last year's prices, we saw that the average costs were around over 70,000, 70 to 75,000. So that's a 50% increase in the last 5 or 6 years in terms of home energy works. Now, that's just for the energy works. And as I mentioned before, most homes also do other works at the same time. And in fact, what we see is most homes are when they go to upgrade their houses or renovate their houses, energy isn't the first reason that they're looking at doing works for their house, whether they're putting on extensions or repurposing their houses to suit different stages in their lives, in the homeowners' lives, and their family lives, etc. Energy kind of comes after that, but the costs of the works are very high. The complexity of the home energy renovations also increase when we're looking and talking to people who are considered fuel poor. So the home renovation journey is very, very complicated. Now, I'd just like to hear from you. I've got a few poll questions just throughout this, just so that I can get a quick idea of who's on the call or what understandings we have. So there's two questions that have just popped up there. One is, have you heard of the term integrated home renovation services? And the second one is, have you heard of the term one-stop shop? So there's two different terms that I'm going to be using. I've already used a few of them or both of them in the first few slides there. And I just want to get a rough estimate of what we're talking about. So yeah, as I would expect, the majority of people have at this stage heard of the term one-stop shop. And much lower percentage have heard of the term integrated home renovation services. So thanks very much for answering that. Thanks very much, Michael. Close that down. Perfect. Okay, thanks everybody. So, what do we mean when we talk about one-stop shops and integrated home renovation services? And it is a bit confusing. There's a not specific definitions or different actors and different people are using the terms in different ways. The Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, so the EPBD, it was recast in 2024. Okay, and specifically, obviously, there's a few different changes, but in relation to what I'm talking about today. It outlined a few key items in relation to home energy upgrades. One of them was the building passports. Okay, so when we talk about home energy renovations, and specifically here in Ireland, when we talk about the deep retrofit program that was piloted and now the one-stop shop program, the aim is to renovate your house up to a B2 or higher in one go. And I know, again, with our partners in the IGBC, over the years, we've been looking at building passports and having that journey for a homeowner, because as I mentioned already, the cost of the deep retrofits or the one-stop shop renovations can be very, very high, as I've mentioned already. So having that building passport, can help the homeowner start and end that journey over a period of time as opposed to in one go. So that is there, and I know I mentioned it. I'm not going to talk about it in detail, but I've mentioned it specifically because I know that the IGBC and us all as stakeholders and partners with IGBC have been looking for that. But the other key difference or key item that was highlighted in the EPBD was the one-stop shops. And it's outlined that there's a central role for one-stop shops to act as key enablers to renovations, okay? It also outlines that member states must ensure that there is a one-stop shop for every 80,000 inhabitants per region. Okay, you can see the map here of Ireland, and we have mapped the existing one-stop shops. I will caveat that and give a caution or a warning. These are the SEAI registered one-stop shops only, okay? And as I'm going to talk about in the next few slides, the definition of what we in Ireland call a one-stop shop and what Europeans and the EPBD perhaps outlined as a one-stop shop are not exactly the same thing. So just to be aware there that the SEI registered one-stop shops are what is on that map. What we also need to talk about and understand is that there are different models of one-stop shops, which I'm going to talk about now. The need for one in every region or every 80,000 population is that it promotes local and regional actors. Okay, so we're looking for local, regional one-stop shops or contractors to help with the number of energy renovations that we need to complete. If we take the population of Ireland and divide it by that 80,000, we need 66 one-stop shops in Ireland. Okay. Currently, we have 21 registered. I think there's a few more since we created that map a couple of months ago. So I think we're up at 24 on the SEAI's registered one-stop shop program. So again, just a caveat there that the one-stop shop term here in Ireland for SEAI is not the only model of one-stop shop that the EPD is talking about. So regardless, however, we do, of course, need more one-stop shops in order to adhere to the recommendations in the EPBD. I've mentioned already there's no specific definition. So although the EPD specifically calls out in Article 8 one-stop shops and outlines the significance of them and the need for them, there's no specific definition of what a one-stop shop is. However, it does have some very clear guidance, and I've just highlighted one section there in section 62 of Article 18. One-stop shops should provide technical assistance and be easily available to all those involved in building renovations, including homeowners, administrative, financial and economic actors such as SMEs, including micro enterprises. So although the one-stop shop program here is specifically aimed at the domestic market, the EPBD is actually looking at non-domestic and domestic. So it's one-stop shops for all building upgrades. One-stop shops and integrated home renovation services. So going back to that poll there. So I think the majority of people on the call today have heard of and probably know what a one-stop shop is. A business that provides a wide range of products or services, allowing customers to find everything they need in a single location, eliminating the need to go elsewhere. So that's what a one-stop shop is. Fewer of you going by the poll results had heard of or know what the term integrated home renovation services is. And again, throughout the EU peers project and our European partners, very much talking more about the integrated home renovation services, not just looking at the energy efficiency upgrades, as I mentioned, but the wider upgrade of a home in terms of extensions, or as I mentioned, repurposing in terms of stages, etc. So the home renovation services is a streamlined single point of contact for homeowners to manage complex renovation projects, especially those involving energy efficiency upgrades. As I mentioned as well, it can be quite confusing. It is quite confusing when we mention one-stop shops or IRHSs or integrated home. Sorry, that's wrong. IHRS, integrated home renovation service provider. So it can be quite confusing. And also, as I've mentioned already, here in Ireland, that very specific definition set by SEEA as to what a one-stop shop is has also caused, perhaps further confusion when we talk to our European partners. Calling out for a certain turnover, very much private operated commercial contractors, as outlined by the SEEA. And I'm going to go into a bit more detail about that. In 2021, there was a paper published by Boulier and Millen from the European Commission. Okay, so they specifically looked into integrated home renovation services across Europe, and they published their report. And what they found was they came up with 10 steps that were identified as being on the journey that a homeowner needs to go on. So if you remember that very complicated, list of all of the different actors for a homeowner that wants to get from a low energy rated home up to a B or an A, a high energy efficiency rated home, all of the different key stakeholders and actors that they needed to deal with. So the report that was published found that there was 10 main steps from a homeowner to go to, from stage one of getting the very basic information, what do I need to do, all the way through to completing the works and quality assurance and having that final product of a A-rated home or high energy efficient home. So there was 10 steps that were identified. And they were also identified that there was already a large number of existing services on the market. Okay, so again, across the top there, you can see architects, engineers, craftspeople, general contractors, brokers, retail banks, etc. So again, taking our image along the bottom and recognizing that, of course, all of these services are being provided by different actors. Okay, but not many of them were linked. The authors of the report then also looked at, if we are talking about integrated home renovation services, there's different models. Okay, so depending on which of those 10 steps were being provided for the homeowners by the different service providers, they were categorized into 3 main models of one-stop shops or integrated home renovation service providers. Okay, there's the advice model, the support model, and the implementation model. Okay, and again, I'm going to go into a bit more detail in a few minutes about each of these and where, in general across Europe, the one-stop shop model is versus what I think we find ourselves here in Ireland. So there are different models across Europe and here in Ireland. But now that it's specifically been called out in the EPBD, there's a need to understand the different models and make sure that we're all working together in terms of one-stop shops versus integrated home renovation services. We believe that the one-stop shop process is part of the integrated home renovation service in terms of the actual delivery and implementation model. Just another couple of quick questions before I move on then. So Michael, if you wouldn't mind. So first question there is, do you provide, so who on the call today, do you provide any of the services along that home energy renovation services journey? So the 10 steps, are you providing any of the services along that 10-step journey? And are there any actual one-stop shops or IRHS's integrated renovation home services on the call today? So yeah, perfect. So there's a few of you. So there's a lot of actors or stakeholders on the call today who are providing one or more part of the services along that journey, and a couple of you maybe acting already as a one-stop shop or an IHRS. So that's great. Perfect. Thank you very much, Michael. Thanks for your results. Thanks for taking part in answering those questions. So again, just to go on in a bit more detail about IHRSs and one-stop shops. So what is the aim of them? Okay, and again, we've talked about that complex journey for the homeowner. So the aim of the IHRS or the one-stop shop is to simplify that journey. Okay, making, you know, as the definitions or the definitions there a few pages ago. So one contact for a homeowner, as opposed to the 10 or 12 different actors along the bottom of that graphic I had. So simplify the complexity of the homeowner journey. Really importantly as well, to improve awareness and provide independent information. So you know, to improve that awareness that homeowners, you know, that there's services available, and there are solutions out there, but most importantly, to provide independent information. Also, and again, to bring all of these actors together, so to connect all the stakeholders and actors in the value chain. So even from that poll question there, there's a large number providing, let's say, some of the steps, and it's about really connecting us all together to make sure that we are providing that integrated service for homeowners. A really important one that we find is ensuring trust and quality of the actors. Okay, so trust the homeowner. When the homeowner, you know, we've mentioned the complexity of the journey, we've mentioned the cost that's involved. That takes a lot of, in essence, bravery from a homeowner to enter into that journey. So they need to be able to trust that whoever it is that they're dealing with is going to you know, provide that independent advice, to provide accurate information to them, and also to ensure the quality of the work that is being done. So that's a really key area here. And to streamline access to the various supports, for example, grants and financial funding, etc. So again, just in a different way, the 10 steps, or the main 10 steps, and I've got a few examples here of how we see this working with our European partners and perhaps here in Ireland, and where we'd like to go. So at the moment, what we see is non-integrated home renovation services, so that there are people or service providers, as we've seen from our own poll there, providing different or various aspects along the journey. But it's seen as scattered in a way. It's non-integrated, so the homeowner starts the journey and kind of gets the information at each stage and carries that information on to the next person on the chain, etc. So it's non-integrated, focused only on part of the value chain, and some functions are not even covered. Okay, so in our opinion, the one-stop shop is part of this integrated home renovation service. Some examples from our European partners, and in general, what we see from our European partners is, and the examples here are from our from Spain and Bulgaria, some of our partners that we're working with. So, in general, we see across Europe that one-stop shops are more along that advice and support model. So if you remember the three models that were identified in the report: advice, support, and then the implementation. So what we see from our European partners is, in general, when they talk about one-stop shops, they're talking very much about the advice and support models. Okay, they're usually being provided by the public sector. Okay, so mostly public sector, and very much at the beginning stage. What is that? That's the independent information. What needs to be done? How are you going to do it in that independent kind of advice and services? What we see here in Ireland is and it's really interesting to see. Again, when we talk to our European partners, they very much see Ireland as you know, one of the front runners in essence in dealing with one-stop shops and how we're delivering the works. So we see ourselves, or we see what's happening here from an SEEA and from a national one-stop shop program point of view, really the implementation stage. So not focusing on that public sector advice and support stage, but very much more on the private sector delivering and implementing the works. So it's the main contractor who's completing the works. It's the main contractor who's obtaining the grants. There are, of course, the new financial streams, and this was a piece that was missing. So the new financial streams, the grants have always been there, but the grants have changed. But now we've got the one-stop shop program. And then last year, the Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme, the HULE scheme, was introduced. And that's run by the SBCI in collaboration with the SEEA. So both of those, in terms of the grants, the financial solutions and the financial planning and the supports, the grants and the Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme, are all tied to the one-stop shop. So a homeowner cannot access those unless they're going through the one-stop shop program. What we're really aiming for is a fully integrated home renovation service where we've got a mix of both public and private working together in order to offer all of the steps, all of the 10 steps across the entire 10-step journey that's been identified. So this is what we want to achieve in EU peers by establishing and running the community of practice. So we wanted to see all of you as different actors, joining the community of practice, and we can all work together in order to provide the full integrated home renovation services across the whole program. Just again, to bring it very briefly back to Ireland, mentioned the European figures ahead. I won't go into detail about our national residential retrofit plan, but just to remind everybody, the target that was set in 2019 in terms of the climate action plan, 500,000 homes by 2030 to be renovated up to a BER B2 and above, installing 400,000 heat pumps, and the greenhouse gas emission targets were set in line with that. So that was the target that was set. And just to bring it back to where we're at, the report that was published only a couple of months ago there in June 2025 outlined the numbers from 2019 when these targets were set up to the end of 2024, and there were 65,000 houses over that period that were renovated. So 65,000 out of the 500,000 is about 13%. So we're only at 13% of the target, and we're at over halfway or just at the halfway stage of that program. So it is, the need to increase our number of home renovations is very, very clear if we want to be anywhere near the 2030 targets that were set. And again, sorry, that's just a screenshot from the Oireachtas questions that were asked again back in June when that report was asked, and the minister himself said that as a result, there will need to be, on average, approximately 75,000 homes a year between now and 2025, between now and 2030, for us to hit that target. So we've only done 65,000 houses in the first 5 years, and our target now is almost 75,000 homes per year between now and 2030. So there's a long way to go. So how are we going to increase the numbers of renovation to more than we have done in the last 5 years combined? So as I mentioned, we're creating a community of practice, so all the main stakeholders to come together. We want to be able to get more regional and local actors. Okay, so again, that very specific and definition of a one-stop shop has actually set a turnover target, and it's quite a large turnover that is required by contractors to be allowed to register as a one-stop shop. So we want to be able to, enable more regional and local contractors, BER assessors, technicians, architects, engineers, etc., to be part of this integrated home renovation service. So by creating that community of practice and bringing everyone together, peer-to-peer learning, and have that space to talk and to network and to link up with your peers in order to create more one-stop shops and a more integrated home renovation service. The benefits of the community of practice: we are hoping that members will get to network with national peers on the Irish platform and also on the transnational platform with our European partners. So again, the aim here is to learn from each other what's working well here in Ireland, what's not, what's working in other EU countries that we can implement here. So again, it's all about sharing knowledge and capacity building. If anybody is interested in joining the community of practice, we welcome everybody, and the link Actually, the link isn't there, so apologies. I'll add the link in, but the link should be there for anybody who wants to find out more and join the community of practice. So we have a long way to go. We've got a lot of work to be done, and it's all about collaboration. So thank you very much. That's EU peers. Thank you. I'll hand back to you, Stacey.
Thank you, Alex. Now we will have Eugena, or sorry, Michael Kinchella on for one-stop shop, domestic and non-domestic energy upgrades. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Stacey. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Kinchella. I work as a project delivery engineer with the Southeast Energy. I mainly work on non-domestic projects, but I cross over now and again to domestics. So I'm going to just give you a bit of a run through on what we do, our project management supports. So we look after energy audits, we do delivery packages, we offer a discounted audit and a delivery package for non-domestic. We normally charge 8% of the capex for PM, but if you tie it in with an energy audit, we reduce it to 5%. We look after tendering and procurement. We're at this a while, so we have a fairly large database of experienced contractors that we can draw on. We upload all relevant Q&A docs to SEEA, and we upload all the financial docs to make a payment claim. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the home energy upgrades. So what are the benefits of a home energy upgrade? I suppose we all enjoy a warmer, cozier home. So by upgrading your insulation and adding renewables, you're making your home more comfortable. We all like to save money. So by doing energy upgrades, we can reduce our energy costs. And I suppose looking at the environment, by doing energy upgrades, we can reduce our carbon footprint, both for ourselves, our children and our grandchildren. And we can increase the value of our homes by bringing our homes to a B2 standard or better. So as many financial institutions give a more favorable borrowing rate to higher energy rated homes. So potential buyers now look at the energy rating of the homes before the purchase. So what are the 3 steps to a home energy upgrade? I suppose the first step is to assess what you have. So we look at doing maybe a pre-BER. With a pre-BER comes an advisory report, where it gives you kind of a pathway of where you need to go to get to a B2 standard or better. Insulating, we look at the envelope, the fabric of the home. We need to improve the fabric before we think of adding renewables, because there's no point in having a sieve. So we need to insulate, and then we add renewables. I think there's a pretty good infographic to show you roughly of the heating cost of a 3-bedroom semi-detached 100 square meter home. You can see here, if you look at maybe a D energy rated home, which would probably be heated by fossil fuels, either oil or gas, costing €2,960 per annum to heat, in comparison to an A energy rated home, which is more than likely heated by a heat pump at €608 per annum to heat. Okay, so what are the options for home energy upgrades? So the first option, I suppose, is the fully funded energy upgrade, which is probably the warmer home scheme. The second option is what we were talking about there earlier with the IHRS, is the one-stop shop. So that is covered under the Community Energy Grant Scheme. And we have the individual energy upgrades. As you can see, all of the energy upgrade measures are covered under the one-stop shop, but they're not covered under the other schemes. So for the warmer home schemes, there's a pre-qualifying for homeowners to be in receipt of welfare payments. This is not means tested, so if you're on a welfare payment, you pre-qualify. It's fully funded by the SEAI. They manage the service. and it's actually also managed by the relevant local authority. So they look after the home survey, they select the contractor, and the contractor does the works and they follow up with the BER. With the one-stop shop, it's a complete home energy solution, part funded by the SEEA. The one-stop shop, fully managed solution, including the grant application, multiple energy upgrades, pay for the works net of eligible grant, and a minimum number of energy upgrades have to be done to achieve a B2 standard or better. If you want to do it in steps, I suppose the individual energy upgrades are there. You select whatever branch you're going to go for. You make an application, you select your contractor, and the contractor does the works, and then you're paid for it after the works are done. So just this gives a breakdown of the different measures and the amounts of grant that are covered under the one-stop shop service. As you can see there, the grant for a heat pump in a detached or semi-detached home is 6,500. There's also a €2,000 grant towards upgrading the radiators or the central heating system. And there's a €2,000 grant for a launch bonus for reaching a B2 standard or better. And you can see the individual grants for all the different measures. I suppose the difference with the one-stop shop grants is the likes of floor insulation, air tightness, windows and doors, project management, home energy assessments are all covered in this, but they're not covered in the individual grants, which I'll go on to next. I think apartments are something that probably are sometimes the forgotten child. As part of our involvement in EU projects, we visit a lot of towns and cities. And in my personal experience, I think the biggest difference I see is that in the European cities, all the spaces over the shops are occupied, and there's either short-term or long-term apartments. And these often help with the cost of keeping the shops open. They can pay somebody's salary, and it's a shame that in Ireland we don't use these spaces because the services are already there, the electricity, the water and the storage. And I think, as we all know, the greenest building is actually a building that's already there. So I think we really need to adopt the European model and start looking at these spaces over shops and business premises. As I said, the individual upgrades, there's quite a few of the measures not covered under the individual grants that are covered under the one-stop shop. But look, it's a pathway. If people haven't got the money to go the one-stop shop, you can do it in increments, and you can improve the BER rating of your house in doing so. I suppose another grant that's often forgotten about is the vacant property grant. If a building is vacant for 12 months or more, you can see by the ESB meter activity if it's vacant. So there's a grant of 50,000 available to renovate a vacant property. And if it's on the local authorities, their building grant, there's a further 20,000. Some of the measures are capped under this scheme, but if you really be clever about this, you can use the one-stop shop grants and the vacant property and the derelict buildings grant, and you can maximize up to 100,000 of grant aid for to do some energy works. I'm going to move on to domestic or non-domestic now, and probably, I suppose, play you a bit of a case study on the Pembroke Hotel in Kilkenny. It was a project that we put through the Community Energy Grant Scheme. The proprietor, John Ryan, I suppose, he's very proud Tipperary man. I better get that in because I think he's online. John, in his previous life, was a quantity surveyor, and he ran a very good consultancy business. And I suppose he brought a lot of innovative energy saving ideas to the hotel through his many years of experience as a quantity surveyor. So look, I'll just play this video. I think John is online. If you have any questions, I think he'd be more than happy to answer the questions at the end of the video. Yeah, Michael.
Well, the hotel is coming up at 20 years old now. I built it on the site of an old garage, Statham's, and they were quite a famous garage at the time because back in the 1930s particularly, they raced cars and they had a famous Statham Ford Special car. In fact, they had a big day in Phoenix Park in 1934. That was our biggest win. So in recognition of that heritage, back in 2016, we rebranded the bar as Statham's. And that has captured so much memory and brought back the heritage of the site, and local people and particularly guests really interested to see the history of the site. While we built the hotel to a high standard at the time, and at that time I was managing partner in Nolan Ryan, which was Ireland's largest Indigenous quantity surveying practice. So we had a lot of building experience of this kind of project. So we had experience and knowledge of the industry. So we got a good build. But notwithstanding that, that's nearly 20 years ago. Things have moved on, and over the last few years we've made quite a few changes to keep pace with guest expectations and improvements generally. In the last few years, we've become much more focused on energy efficiency, on making the business lean and efficient, because everybody wants a rewarding career, everybody wants to be well paid. We have to be efficient, we have to be lean in order to do that. And I'm a great believer in making things easy, but it's easy to be good. We make it, simplify the process, we streamline what we do so that we can be consistently very good. That's really important for us in the hospitality game. About 10 years ago, we started master planning and where we'd see the overall future of the hotel going. And in 2019, we started with our biggest project, which was to redevelop the kitchen. So we completely changed the kitchen. We changed from gas to induction hobs. We put in more efficient appliances. And really, that's been the big project that got us going confidently on a journey of sustainability. And the reaction from people was there because we were innovating. There was change, there was apprehension, and particularly you know that there would have been apprehension for chefs to move from gas to electric. But I think if you were to ask any of the chefs now, they would much prefer induction. You know, it's got a lot of the benefits of gas. It's fast, it's probably faster than gas, it's instantaneous. They can have the convenience of the cold water tap directly over the hob, the cleaning, the cleanliness of the kitchen, the presentation of the kitchen, the environment. Like the constant heat from gas burners is gone. So it's a very pleasant environment. So I think they're the big advantages from the kitchen. Following on from that big job in 2019, which gave us great confidence to move on, we found ourselves in 2020 with ambition, but then COVID struck. So we were thrown into all that turmoil of closures and whatever. So after really rationalizing, we said, well, listen, we're in it for the long haul. Let's make use of this downtime. So during the lockdowns, we took down ceilings, we put in new ventilation systems, we put in heat recovery, and we zoned the bars and the restaurants so that they could be localized, so that we get very efficient local ventilation, and plenty of it, because it's based on heat recovery, which is about 80% heat recovery from those units, and then it's got CO2 sensors, so it'll ramp up the ventilation as required. So we've got a lot of, particularly in the winter, we've got, I think, very low cost heating because we've got such efficiency there, and we're ventilating when required and as required. So that's really important for us. In the basement, we put in a big standalone air handling unit that would supply air to that, and that actually has 90% efficiency on heat recovery. So I think the benefits environmentally, comfort are really good because we've got a lot of fresh air. People notice that freshness. And there's a confidence, particularly when you went into a basement at that time. So we left the ducts exposed so that people could see them, and they're very attractive ducts. But we felt it was important to let people see that this space is in top shape. We recently completed a new floor on the building, and at that stage then we were able to advance with our PV program. So we've got about 45 panels on the roof. With the nature of this building, it's got we're actually over 7 stories from ground, basement, and 5 floors above it. So our roof area per floor area ratio is quite small. But we've actually done what we can. Some of our roof area is further diminished with roof terraces. But I think the PV is going to make a significant contribution to us over the years. With the dynamic and the particular circumstances, we didn't need any batteries because we will always be using the amount of PV that's produced. So we're very happy to have worked with the PV. We feel that it's silent, it's there, it's going to be just a great help with us in introducing our heat pumps, because we've got additional electricity demand. So that extra bump that we get from the PV will help us manage our MIC demand and keep below our agreed capacity with ESB networks. In the next few weeks, we'll be commissioning our heat pumps. And that's going to be a big step forward in our journey to net zero, because that would have eliminated gas usage in the building. So that's quite a big step for us. The other one that we're looking at, our restaurant opens directly off the lobby, and we're looking at the idea of putting an air curtain internally, which is perhaps a bit innovative because people are used to seeing them on external doors. But we've kind of come up with the idea, and the agency has justified it in terms of the energy savings. But so the lobby is a transient zone, so we see that as being comfortable at 19 degrees. There's a lot of air change there, so getting that up to a higher temperature would cost a lot of money. It can be done, and it has been done. But now we're going to put a heat curtain between the lobby and the restaurant, so that we can actually get the restaurant to 21 degrees or thereabouts, whatever is comfortable. And we think that will show a big effect on energy savings. Working with the agency for us over the years has really helped us make a big impact on our journey. When we've had an idea, when we've had something we want to bounce off somebody, when we need something interrogated properly, when we need to be told that doesn't work, the agency were really such a strong backup to us. And over the years, we developed great relationship, great confidence, trust. So the agency is a trusted partner, and they've brought us along this journey. They got us on the journey. They started us. I think if we had not continued with that relationship, we'd have found some roadblocks. We'd probably have taken some wrong directions, and we may be stuck somewhere. So I think the agency has been fundamentally important in the journey we've taken. A motivation as an independent hotel is to use the freedom we have within commercial constraints to make decisions, to advance the business, and to be in the leading pack for change. And that's becoming important for corporate clients and also leisure guests. They're becoming increasingly interested in what you're doing about sustainability. I believe it's common sense to look at the broader aspects of the business, to look at where we want to be in 10 years' time, to do something about it now, to change in time. The early adapters sometimes take risks, but you got to be in the leading pack. That's kind of the motivation. We look at payback, we look at finances, we look at all of that. We look long term. We look at things that make sense, and that's our driving force.
I suppose, has anyone any questions on that for John? That was an advertisement for Kilkenny Tourism and Pembroke Hotel. I'm sure you're all frantically booking overnight stays. Does anyone any questions? I was saying anything? Everyone's happy? Okay, so I'll just move on and explain how we done the work in the Pembroke Hotel. So it was done initially under the Community Energy Grant. In 2019, we upgraded the air handling units for the basement and the first and second floor. And as John mentioned there, we replaced the inefficient gas hobs with induction hobs. And look, I suppose the figures speak for themselves there in 2019, a saving of 38,000 and energy saved of 173 kilowatt hours, 173,000 kilowatt hours, should I say. In 2022, we upgraded the windows. We moved to triple glaze windows with a U value of 0.9 compared to the existing windows that were there were about 2. We added a BMS so we can control everything within the hotel. We upgraded the AHU then for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors. And there was multiple water pumps there servicing the hotel, so we moved to one centralized variable speed drive water pump. In 2024, then we added air curtains. We added 2 heat pumps to move away from gas boilers, and John explained the kitchen extracts fans. Rather than pulling the heat from the overall kitchen and the dining room, the extract fans are directly over the cookers, the induction hobs, and the fryers. We also then applied for the microgen scheme for the solar PV, and we're in the process at the moment. We've added EV chargers, 622 kilowatt EV chargers for the guests, and we're actually doing an upgrade to the lift to make it more efficient, sorry, should I say. So just to talk you through, I suppose, the supports that are out there with anything, I suppose the energy audit is the precursor. You should start with an energy audit. There is a support scheme for energy audits available through the SEAI. There's a €2,000 voucher towards the cost of a high quality energy audit. In most cases, small SMEs will cover the cost of the audit. For to be eligible, you have to be a non-obligated party. In other words, not a local authority. I don't think the likes of vape shops or tattoo parlors are covered. You need to be tax compliant. You need to be registered in the Republic of Ireland, and you need to spend at least €10,000 or more in the calendar year on energy. There's a limit of 1 audit voucher per applicant. I'd ask you if you're applying within the Southeast to pick ourselves. Alex Hamilton, who you've heard from already, is our senior engineer. So Alex is listed as an SEI registered energy auditor. So this is the steps of how to apply for the energy audit voucher. You go onto the SEI link, you register your details. I would say have your company registration number, your MPRN number, your VAT number at hand. Fill out the application. You get a notification then that you've been approved. We get notification, and then we arrange a date and a time that suits you to do the audit. Okay, and that's just a little bit of an infographic on the whole energy audit and how it works. So I suppose the first grant we're just going to talk about, not going to go into the details of these grants, but I'll just give you an overview. So the Community Energy Grant is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a community grant. So we have SMEs, local authorities, community buildings, sports clubs, all making an application under the one grant. So we usually have 10 or 12 applicants, and we mix them up with some domestic houses. There's 30% funding for most of the measures for SMEs and the commercial sector. 20% funding for EV chargers and for solar PV. Community groups, if there's no economic activity on site, they can qualify for 50% funding. And these are the type of measures that are supported under the CEG scheme. So fabric upgrades, heating, windows and doors, flood lighting, technology and system upgrades such as BMS. And the next grant is the Microgen scheme. So that's a pretty simple grant to apply for. There's grant funding up to 1,000 kilowatts of power. You see the sliding scale for the grant amount depending on the size of your solar array. It's a pretty quick grant. It actually, you know, if you apply for it, you'll get notification within 24 hours that you've been accepted. And in tandem to the Microgen scheme is the sellback tariff. At the moment, this really only applies to domestic houses because the smart meters for three-phase haven't been rolled out yet, but it's imminent. So it's, you know, if you're not using electricity, you're selling it back to the grid, and the different suppliers give you a different tariff rate for your sell back to the grid. The next grant is the SSRH. This is a support scheme for renewable heating. This is to kind of incentivize people to move away from fossil fuels and move on to heat pumps, biomass and biogas. There's a 30% grant for heat pumps, and then for the likes of biomass and biogas, there's a rebate which lasts for 15 years based on your annual usage, and it's paid quarterly. The Business Energy Upgrade Scheme, or BEUS grant, is a new grant that was launched by SEEA back in March. Again, it's a pretty quick grant to get approval for. If we apply today, you should have approval within 24 hours. It covers solar thermal, wall and roof fabric. Just like to say there, that doors and windows are not covered under this grant. Heating and cooling upgrades for pumps, air handling units, BMS optimization. There's 30% grants for those measures. There's 50% grant up to a maximum of 25,000 for design assistance. Again, that's a good grant if you're thinking of moving from fossil fuel to a heat pump, that you can get a full mechanical and electrical design. So there's a grant there to assist the transition there. Here's just a bit of an infographic of the 4 grants I've mentioned. You can see the CEG grant is kind of the one size fits all. It is a slower grant, it's a slower process. It does take a couple of months to go through. But when we get a letter of offer, you've got 12 months to complete the works. BEUS is a pretty quick grant. It's usually approved in 24 hours, and you've got eight months to complete the works. But you can see there that some of the measures are not covered under the BEUS. The SSRH, as I said, it's kind of for heat pumps and biomass. This suits the likes of large energy users, such as maybe leisure centres, nursing homes and hotels. And then there's the Microgen grant for solar PV. The grant process, I suppose, it starts off with the expression of interest. You give us a call or an email, we contact you, we arrange an energy audit. When we complete the energy audit, we issue an energy audit report, and we advise the beneficiary of what is the best pathway or what is the best grant for to apply for. So just a reminder again, is your business eligible for a €2,000 voucher towards the cost of a high quality energy audit? There's a QR code there with the info on it. Just wondering, has anyone any questions on what I've spoken about there?
We've one question there, Michael, from Shem Kennedy. And what was the biggest challenge with the Pembroke project?
I suppose because it's a working hotel, and to try and do the work without minimum disturbance. So we done quite a lot of the work during the low occupancy period from maybe October through to March. And a lot of the work was done behind the scenes, and the clients didn't even know the work was going on, which was great.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously very important for the businesses to keep going.
Yeah,
Not to be
yeah,
disrupted.
yeah. Thanks,
And does
Stacey.
anyone else have any other questions? You can pop them in the chat, or if you want to unmute, that's no problem.
God, I must have done a great job. Everyone's happy.
Thoroughly explained.
Okay, thank you for your time. There's more information on grants and supports available on our website. There's a lovely view from the rooftop of the Pembroke Hotel, which is soon to be turned into a kind of an exclusive high-end rooftop restaurant, looking over the Kilkenny Castle and the Design Centre. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. I just want to thank all the speakers today. And we'll, Alex and Michael, and we'll move on to Eugenia now.
Thank you so much, Stacey. Thank you, Michael and Alex. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time today joining our webinar. I'm Eugena. I'm the project manager at Southeast Energy Agency here in Kilkenny, and I'm going to introduce you to the new ECOBoost project that we're working on together with multiple partner organizations across the Northwest Europe. The project title, we call it ECOBoost, and it was designed and created with micro and small businesses and in food and hospitality sector in mind. Running the business today means juggling many challenges for business owners, ranging from keeping customers happy to managing rising costs, meeting new sustainability requirements, all that. This project, ECOBoost, is designed to empower small businesses, micro and small businesses in food and hospitality sectors to overcome barriers to energy transitions. Many of those barriers were mentioned before by Alex and Michael. The project outcomes will help businesses hopefully not only to cut costs through energy efficiency, but also strengthen the competitiveness and resilience in the current market. I was going to say next slide, please, but it's me who's flicking through the slides. So the Southeast Energy Agency and 7 other organizations from 5 regions across Northwest Europe. We're working together on this project. Our partners are from Belgium, Germany, France, and Netherlands. The project is just started. We started it early in 2025, and we're aiming to finalize the project at the end of 2029. ECOBoost is a 4.9 million project funded by the European Union and with high involvement with partners across 5 regions from Northwest Europe. What does it mean for businesses? For businesses, it means that we'll have access to international expertise. They will have access to shared best practices, not from Ireland, but across another regions, and they will also will have chance to look at the innovative solutions that tested and proven across the Europe. As I mentioned before, the project is only started. We just successfully finalized the project initiation stage, and there are 3 work packages in the project, all designed with the small businesses in mind. As I mentioned before, the aim of the project is to provide help and guidance for the micro and small businesses with energy transition. So we have 3 work packages. First work package is research and development. Next one will be pilot, and the third and last work package is implementation of all the solutions that were designed and developed during the first two packages. There's no much information and project outcomes to share with you guys. It's just here you have a chance to have a quick look of what is going to happen in the next few years. During the project phases, when we're closer to the plant phase, the project will be actively communicated to the general public. It's quite silent for now, as we still in the preparation phase. So we successfully started the work package 1. We started our research and development, and we actively involved, and all our partners are actively involved in data gathering of and learning what is the existing situation with the support for the micro and small businesses. We have, and it was mentioned before, it's a lot of tools out there, and we are gathering data about all the available tools and support mechanism, both financial and non-financial, that available for the small businesses. Also, we are learning about challenges they're meeting. It can be technical challenges, as it was mentioned before, financial constraints, different type of regulations, lack of awareness can be a big one. So all this data gathering will end up with the SWOT analysis, general SWOT analysis for each separate region involved in the project. Based on the data that we have, based on the outcomes of the SWOT analysis, we'll design and develop a new tool. We call it Energy Transition Navigator, that will help our businesses to navigate through this challenging journey. The Energy Transition Navigator will provide tailored solution for small businesses depending on each separate situation. There will be business models available and action plans on that stage. So when we're good and ready with all the data analysis and suggested solutions, we're going to move to the work package 2, when we're going to select 15 small businesses from each participating region. And we're going to test our new approach. We're going to test our Energy Transition Navigator with every business that decided to participate in our project. Our support will include energy audits, consultancy, training sessions, workshops. The feedback from the pilot SMEs will be gathered in aiming to improve our developed, half-ready Energy Transition Navigator. And last, work package 3, during this work package, we are going to actively promote new Energy Transition Navigator, make it available for businesses. We're going to communicate it widely to the public. We're going to engage with small and micro businesses. We will try to expand our solutions, our project outcomes, not only over the food and hospitality sectors, but include other sectors as well. So we're hoping that the new Energy Transition Navigator will reduce uncertainty and help small businesses adapt faster and create lasting competitive advantages. That's why we're focusing on the guidance through what already exists within the project regions. It's a lot of tools, it's a lot of instruments, it's a lot of helps, but it can be challenging for small businesses to navigate through all of this. We're aiming to make this journey easier. The next steps of the project that you might hear of is our energy transition navigator development. We're aiming to get it done at the end of 2026, and we're going to start our pilots at the end of 2026, beginning of 2027 within the project regions. So that's a very short overview of the project. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. If you would like to, if there's any owners of the small businesses here today, you are very welcome to join the project. You can contact me if you want. Thank you so much for your attention. That's all from me today. Happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Eugenia. So there is one question from Gaston in the chat. So I might leave this one to either Michael or Alex, if you don't mind having a read through. It's quite a detailed question inside the chat there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Stacey, and thanks, Gaston, for that question. Yeah, and it's a really good question and a good point that you've raised. So just for those of you who haven't read it, and to summarize, the question is how are landlords, or how do the grants affect landlords and tenants? So can a tenant apply for a grant, or can the landlord apply for the grant and do the works, but then they don't see the savings in the bills? So really good question, and it is a key point, and one that we've been looking at for many years. Again, not only in private landlord owned buildings, but also for local authorities and social housing bodies who have large numbers of low energy efficient homes. And again, in general, the social housing bodies and the local authorities, their tenants would be considered as fuel poor or in the energy poverty bracket due to low income and high energy costs, etc. So it's one that we've been aware of and that we're raising and trying to work out what models are available. So if you have any, because the answer is there isn't a solution here at the moment. In general, the grants are for landlords or for homeowners. So tenants cannot apply for the grants because tenants in general don't do the work. So it's the landlord or the owners that have to apply for the grants. But as you say, they are not in general, looking to do that because they don't see the savings in the bills, or they don't get the benefits of living in a energy efficient home. So it is one that we're looking to address. How the SEEA are addressing this is unclear at the moment, and there isn't a solution. So Gaston, I don't know how you're dealing with it yourselves.
Well, the thing is, I got those figures off the Residential Tenancies Board. So those are actually private rentals. Now, one thing that I wrote a small article on it because this has interested me for quite a number of years now. I wrote an article in Engineers Ireland about this, and because I worked 6 years in revenue, I looked at it differently. And I think the answer is for all the agencies like SEEA and all the other agencies is to basically implement a synergistic solution where, for example, like a benchmark is set for, let's say, a house from the 1950s. The majority of the houses in the 1950s, let's just all say that they're a D or an F, yeah? So you have a benchmark. So if you improve, let's say, 2 ratings or 3, you get not a tax write-off, but basically a tax break that is, let's say, 10 years or 20 years now. That makes it very interesting for the landlord because he sees a benefit. Because if he just uses the SEEA grant, like the tenant is going to enjoy them, not him. He doesn't see any incentive to it. And the problem with the housing market in Ireland, the rental market in Ireland, which is broken, is that a house, let's say, with a G rating will only get marginally less rent than a house with a B rating. It's all per meter square rather than per energy rating. So that way, that needs to be addressed as well. The rental costs versus the BERs. So
yeah,
like,
absolutely, and
yeah.
two good solutions there, but or suggestions, yeah, and you're right, and I don't know what it's like across Europe, but in general, let's say, you know, it's probably not too wrong of me to say that the rental system here is broken, and you're right that you know, although all landlords need to have a BER rating in general, what does that mean when there's such a housing crisis and people need a house to live in? They don't have the ability to choose an A-rated home versus a G-rated home, and that's the reality of it, unfortunately.
Correct. So what's probably missing from the Irish policy is like it's all carrot, but there's no stick.
Yeah.
You know, to borrow from Trump is what I said. He used to promote 10% of his top performing staff and fired the bottom 10%. So maybe not the best example, but it drives it home. Like,
yeah, let's not do anything that he's doing. But anyway, you know, but the carrot is there for some people, but it's not there for all. So the carrot isn't there for the landlord or the homeowner when it's rented accommodation, and the same for social housing bodies. We have done a number of projects and reports and studies with again social housing bodies and local authorities over the years, and you know, found that in reality for them to feel, you know, for it to be cost effective, in essence they would need a 95% grant for the energy upgrades, and not the 30 to 40% that is on offer. So you know, for homeowners who are not seeing the benefits of those energy upgrades, yes, it's a big problem that still needs to be fixed. But I like the tax suggestion, Gaston. So we should discuss that more and look into it.
6 years work and revenue for my sins. But anyway, I wrote a little, like I used those figures. I wrote a little article. I think it was January 2023 in Engineers Ireland. I wrote the article for. So if you want to chase some more of the figures, or I can email it to you.
Yeah, please, if you could email it on to us, Gaston, that would be great. Thank you very much. Thanks for your input.
Thank you, Gaston. And just we have another comment there from Ivan inside the chat as well, regarding the same question, I believe.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey. I'll just have a quick look, or Ivan, if you want to unmute yourself and have a chat with us, that please do. So the question or the comment, the Finance Act 2022 legislated for a new tax deduction of up to 10,000 per property for small-scale landlords who undertake retrofit works whilst the tenants remain in situ. The tax deduction is in addition to the SEI grants and is conditional on the landlord having claimed an SEI grant for the retrofit works. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Thanks for that information, Ivan. We'll look into that and see how that affects, how that is affecting or impacting. Thank you for that information.
Okay, and if anyone else has any other questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask the question or pop it into the chat there. We'll hang around for another minute or so to give you a bit of a chance. And while we're here as well, I just want to thank all the speakers again, and a special shout out to Michael Dean as well for all your support with this webinar. So thank you. Yeah, and thanks to all the speakers, Alex, Michael, and Eugena. And if there's no more questions, we might. Thanks, Mary. If there's no more questions, we might close out the chat. And like you said, if you do want any further information, just contact us and we'll share the recording as well. So if you can recheck it. Okay. Thanks a million. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.